Do general stores still work, or should you be building one product stores like everybody else? Hey everyone, welcome to a new video. My name is Wane, and in this one I want to talk to you about whether you should still be running general stores or not. Now, if you do any kind of research on dropshipping, people are always saying build one product stores, build one product stores. You know, the general store is dead, you shouldn't be doing that, you need to be doing one product stores. So in this video I want to kind of go over if general stores are still relevant today, because back in the day, general stores were the thing, that's what everyone had their success with, but dropshipping is evolving as time goes on. So the question is, do we have to focus more on one product stores now rather than the traditional general store? So if you're running general stores right now and not seeing many sales, if you're running a one product store but you're getting fed up of having to keep rebuilding it every time that one product doesn't work, or even if you're just new to dropshipping and you want to know whether you should do a general store or whether you should focus on a one product store, this video is for you. I'm probably going to give you a very, very good tip towards the end of this video, so make sure you stick around so you don't miss that. But before we get into the video, please can I ask that you drop me a quick like on this video. It really does help with the YouTube algorithm and I really do appreciate all your support. So it only takes a second to do and it really does help me out. So when I first started dropshipping, traditional general stores, and I'm talking about the general stores that just have a bunch of random products on the website, were the thing. That was what everyone was doing. That's what all the success was. That's what all the free YouTube videos were talking about. It was always general store, general store, general store. Just fire out products, the crappy little cat necklaces, dog necklaces and stuff like that. That was the big thing when I started looking into dropshipping. And one of the first ever general stores that I came across is a website called LDS Man. Now, they were your typical general store. They had a bunch of random stuff on there from all sorts of things, but they hit it big with a blow-up sofa. It was a blow-up airbed sofa, and they made a lot of money selling those. And that was about the time when I started looking at dropshipping a lot more seriously, rather than just trying to do it as a little bit of a hobby on the side. That's when I really started focusing on whether dropshipping was something I wanted to get involved in. And LDS Man was one of the very first websites I actually came across and started to study in more detail. Now, you have to remember, at this time when I first started doing, dropshipping and building my general store, I had no idea what I was doing. It was very much, I'm just going to copy these guys and see if I can make some money out of it. And that was kind of the mindset in the beginning. And it did work to an extent. I sold a couple of items, nothing really to like a big scale, but I was really trying to copy what they were doing because I didn't know what I was doing. And back then, general stores, the traditional general stores, were very successful because people hadn't seen this before. Those people you're advertising to on Facebook, they hadn't seen these kind of stores popping up where you could buy these interesting little pieces of jewelry and things like that. However, over time, like most things, it evolved. Dropshipping evolved, and what people expected from a dropshipping store also evolved. And that's why a lot of people these days are saying that general stores don't work anymore, because dropshipping has evolved. But the thing is, the general store still does work. Not necessarily in the traditional sense that it used to, but in more of a sort of evolved state, and I'm going to be going through that in a little bit more detail in this video. So about a year into me having this traditional general store and copying a few things from other different websites, I realized that the traditional model wasn't working anymore, and I needed to make this a little bit different, and I needed to make it a little bit more of a themed store. And what I mean by a themed store is trying to narrow down my store to not necessarily be a niche, but to have top level categories that my brand is built around. So for example, you could do things like home and garden. You could theme your general store around home and garden products, or you could do beauty and jewelry products or something like that, or gadgets, accessories, things like that. You can basically narrow it down by the top level categories within AliExpress. And what that allows you to do is it allows you to have a general store so you can test different products, but it also sort of themes it a little bit so you can start to build a brand around it. And that's kind of one of the pros to having a one product store, is you can build a brand. And what people say about general stores, your traditional general stores, is because it's so fragmented, your products are so fragmented, you can't actually build a brand, and there isn't really any identity when it comes to your store. So having a little bit more of a themed sort of feel to the general store does really work, and it allows you to still test products on a wider scale, but still have that brand identity and still sort of have a go-to-market strategy that works. Making that change to my store really did work, because at that point, when I was a traditional generic store, I'd done around $200,000 in revenue. Once I'd made that change, in the same amount of time it took me to get to $200,000, I got to $700,000. So it it really sped up the process, and it really allowed me to expand my business because I had a more sort of targeted approach when it came to products, and I could brand the website in a certain way that made my store seem more trustworthy, more professional, and it made people more likely to buy from me. So the key point to take away from this before I move on is, if you have a completely generic general store, so it's completely random, you've got a bunch of fragmented products from a bunch of different categories, try and narrow it down to one or two different sort of categories within AliExpress. You know, like I said, go for, you know, home and garden or health and beauty or something like that. Go for two top level categories that kind of complement each other a little bit, and then go down that kind of route, because it's still going to let you test a bunch of different random products, but you're going to have been narrowed down enough to have an actual identity to your brand. And just a side note on this, please review your stores. I've had a lot of people asking me recently why they aren't making sales, whether that's people just reaching out to me through Facebook or people who have had on my coaching calls. They're asking why they're not getting sales, and they think it's their advertising. But I can tell you right now, for the majority of them, it's not their advertising, it's their actual store. I can't stress to you how important it is to have a professional looking store, because some of the stores I've seen recently have been terrible. It's been shocking how bad they've actually been. And if you think this is a get rich quick kind of scheme and you don't have to put any effort into building your store, you are not going to be successful with this. So do some research, look at what other successful e-com companies are doing with their websites, and replicate the best features of their websites. If you think loading up a free Shopify theme with the default fonts and default kind of layouts is going to make you successful, you're going to get a big shock, because that isn't how this works. You have to put effort in, you have to make your store professional, and you have to make it look trustworthy. If you aren't getting sales, the first thing you need to be looking at is your store. Is your store a professional looking store that you would be happy to buy from yourself? I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here, but it does really frustrate me when people are spending all this money on Facebook advertising, but yet their store, which is one of the easiest portions of this entire thing to do, isn't done to a standard that you would expect in e-com. So focus on getting that store sorted before you even think about going to Facebook. And I think a lot of that issue really does come down to people doing these general stores, because with a general store, it's very hard to brand it, because how can you brand it if you have a store that has a bunch of different categories in there? You know, if you have products to do with the beauty and makeup sort of niches, you want to make your fonts a little bit more feminine, a little bit more girly. But then if you've got men's products on that website as well, you can't brand your fonts and your colors in a more feminine way, because you're also targeting men. And this is where the difficulty with general stores comes in, because you can't brand your store around two completely opposite niches. It just is impossible to do. So you end up with this kind of in-between sort of state of a theme of your store that doesn't suit either sort of audience you're trying to target. And that's where a lot of the issues come from. So like I said, when you're going for a general store, you want to narrow it down to two complementing themes, so you can actually design your store to match those categories, and you can theme them in the right way. Branding and professionalism in your store is the foundation. If you do not have that in place, then you're not going to see a lot of success. So get that in place before you even think about doing anything else. But if you are going to build a one product store, then the fonts, the color schemes, the layout all need to complement that product. You know, you're not going to do, say, a makeup store and then start making themes and fonts and colors that match kind of a gadget store. It doesn't make sense. So you want to build your store around the products you've got. Use the different logos, the different designs, the different colors, the different images from AliExpress. Get them all in the store so they complement that product, because you want to make it out that you're a market leader in that product, and you want to have it so that store is the brand. And that is how you make a successful dropshipping, or a successful one product dropshipping store anyway, is you have to build that store around the product and make it sort of cohesive with the product itself. Now, one of the biggest downfalls to a one product store is if you find a product and you put a lot of effort into your store and you build it all up, you get your ads sorted, you start advertising it, but people just aren't buying. You put a lot of effort into building a one product store, and because that product is no longer working, you either have to try and sell the store, or you have to sort of scrap it and rebuild and start from scratch and go with another product. And it is very time consuming to do that. Now, there is a way around that when it comes to building a one product store. You would build your one product store as a category rather than a product. So for example, if you were trying to sell some anti-wrinkle cream, that was your one product store, okay? It's in the beauty niche, but the product is the anti-wrinkle cream. So if you then decided to call your one product store nomorewrinkles.com, your your brand would be branded as No More Wrinkles. That would be the brand. You would have the anti-wrinkle cream as your product. You'd make all the website look really nice to do with the products and everything. And if it didn't work, you'd have to scrap the entire product. But instead of branding your store No More Wrinkles to do with the product, if you branded it in a kind of generic kind of way, but still within the beauty niche, what that would allow you to do would be to swap out the anti-wrinkle cream for another beauty product. So for example, if you think of brands along the lines of Sephora or Tiffany's, Sephora is like a beauty kind of store that does a bunch of different beauty products. Tiffany's is all about jewelry and things like that. But from the two names, you wouldn't know it was a beauty or a jewelry store. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't give it away in the name. So if you said, if you created your brand for your anti-wrinkle cream along the lines of Sephora, obviously don't use Sephora because it's trademarked, but if you called your brand something like that, then you could have the anti-wrinkle cream in that store as your one product. If it didn't work, you could swap it out and put in another beauty product, because the design of the store will still be within the beauty niche. So you should be able to just plug and play any kind of beauty product. And that goes for any category. If you did a gadget store and you were trying to sell a gadget, don't brand your store in a way that tells you what the gadget is. Brand it that has something to do with gadgets, but then swap the gadget out with another one product. Keep swapping them out over and over again until you find one that works. I'm not saying you need to go and do that, but it does work really well if you are sort of fed up of having to keep rebuilding stores over and over again. So now you have the testing and flexibility of a general and a niche store, but also the scaling and the branding ability of a one product store. And that's just going to open up so many more doors to you when it comes to testing different products. So you can brand that entire store around a category, a niche within AliExpress, and just swap the products out as and when you need to. If that doesn't get your mind firing with ideas, I don't know what will, because that opens up so many doors and so many opportunities when it comes to testing products and branding products and branding stores in general. It's definitely a great idea to look into. So in essence, general stores do still work as long as you can theme them a little bit more. Don't have the generic random products all over the place that aren't categorized in any way. Sort of narrow it down into two top level sort of AliExpress categories and do it that way, because that's going to allow you to test multiple products in a flexible kind of way, but also keep a bit of an identity with your brand, so people don't think that this is the random sort of spammy website that someone's trying to sell products on. And then with the one product store, if you use the tip that I gave you about branding a one product store in a way that allows you to swap out products within that niche, that's still going to kind of give you the flexibility and testing opportunities as a general store does, but it's also going to allow you to have the scaling ability and the branding ability of a one product store, which is going to give you sort of more credibility with that product and with your audience. So hopefully you found that useful. Hopefully that got your mind sort of whirring over a little bit with some ideas you can do with your businesses. If you did find this useful, please drop me a like. It really does help with the YouTube algorithm. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and that notification bell, because there's a bunch of useful content coming. There's a bunch of useful content already on the channel. So if you haven't been here before, if you haven't watched those videos, go and check them out, because there could be some really useful information that could change your business. If you want to learn more about dropshipping, all the links are in the description. If you have any questions about this video, drop me a comment, because I am still answering everything. But I think that's the end of this one. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll catch you in the next one.